Hey guys, how's it going? So today I'm going to take you around Amsterdam for a little bit because I'm going to go see 2001 Space Odyssey in 70mm, the way God and Stanley Kubrick intended. I'm going to go to the same museum I went to see the Martin Scorsese exhibition, so today instead of just narrating everything for you, I'm going to take you along with me, and then once we finish watching the movie, I'm going to talk about it a little bit and let you know if it feels any different. I've never actually seen this movie in a big screen, so I'm really excited about that. And yeah, so just come along and let's share this experience together. So I thought I was gonna bring you a really awesome vlog in which I could take you to see Space Odyssey with me. It didn't occur to me that obviously I'm not gonna record in theaters, so there's not much footage I could have really shown you. Instead, I thought I could talk to you about my experience after watching the movie in 70mm. Now, just to start off with a little bit of information about what a movie in 70mm is and what does it mean. Usually when movies were recorded on film, they would be recorded on 35mm film. The name refers to the width of the film strip, which is technically 34.9mm, I think. So when you hear the movie's filmed in 35mm and then you heard 70mm, you quite literally have double the space and size for directors to film what they want and to play around with the space. A lot of people recently became aware of what 70mm would mean because The Hateful Eight came out and it was filmed in 70mm and it was shown on very specific theaters. The cool thing about filming in 70mm is if you have a movie like Hateful Eight where most of it takes place inside a cabin, it looks a lot wider, it doesn't feel cramped up or as tight as it normally would in a 35mm film. And also because the film strip is double the size of a normal one, you get more details, the colors are more vibrant, which would be an amazing experience in a movie like 2001 Space Odyssey. So for example, if you have a shot that is from far away, you could still see a lot of the details that you wouldn't in a 35mm film. Personally, unless you have a very trained eye, I don't think you can see a lot of difference unless you have seen the movies back to back. But I really want to see Space Odyssey in 70mm, and overall, I just really wanted to see this movie on the big screen. If any of you have seen it, I think you know that 2001 Space Odyssey is not a movie that you rewatch often because it is so strange and it's just such an experience. I've only seen it once before yesterday, so I'm really glad I got to rewatch it because it brought up a few things that I didn't really pick up on the first viewing. The first thing I noticed is that the first act is a lot stronger than I remember, especially if you focus on the little details and the little things that Kubrick is trying to tell you without any words. The hominids are on the brink of starvation and they face a deadly predator with the leopard. And if it weren't for the sudden appearance of the monolith, they would not have gained this new knowledge, they would not have defeated their predators, and therefore mankind would not have existed. I also love very much, not just in this act, but in the entire movie, the choices that Kubrick makes with sounds and music. For example, the majority of this act is silent because mankind hasn't really happened yet, and so there's not that level of intelligence, and he represents that with a lack of music. But then we get this sort of eerie, choir-like, non-lyrical music when the monolith shows up, which is to represent the fact that this is something foreign, something alien, something not human whatsoever. And then the sound really increases, and then we're back to silent again, and then when Moonwatcher is playing with the carcasses, we start to hear classical music again when something just dawns on him, when this new idea, this new intelligence comes into practice. And so the choice of classical music shows you that humans are about to happen, that mankind is about to happen, and a new level of intelligence has been reached. And I love that this is the first classical piece that we get in the movie, but when we get into the second act, you get a lot more of these classical pieces, just to show that mankind has been elevated to a higher level of intelligence, because of course we're in space, and we're much closer to finding the monolith that is on the moon. The second thing I can confirm after watching Space Odyssey for the second time is that HAL 9000 is one of the best characters ever made and one of the best representations of robots and artificial intelligence. I think Kubrick and Clarke had an incredible way of showing us what artificial intelligence could be like and kind of setting a standard for future sci-fi movies without having it to be a very obvious and direct message. Of course, Hal appears evil because he's threatening humanity, and as humans, we sympathize with the humans in the movie because we don't want them to die. But Hal is not doing anything that goes against his nature and the purpose that was given to him. And if Hal doesn't fulfill his purpose, then what is he? And he only starts to act out when the humans threaten to shut him down. Therefore, Hal is very aware of his own existence and the fact that it can end. One of my favorite scenes in the movie and in cinema in general, I won't go into details about it, but it's that very specific scene between Hal and David Bowman. I won't spoil it for you or anything, but I think it's such an incredible way of showing that artificial intelligence can have emotions, unique emotions, and not because they have been programmed to have them. And it's just so chilling. It's such a chilling and memorable scene because you have Hal saying things like, "I'm afraid, Dave," or "Stop, please stop, Dave," but it's in that monotone robotic voice. We're so used to understanding fear and panic through the tone of someone's voice, and because Hal doesn't have that, it just kind of accentuates the fact that he is incredibly afraid, and he's using words that you would hear a human say, but in a very robotic way. I think it's an incredible scene. Completely worth it. This movie is completely worth it, in my opinion, just for this one scene. Also, Hal is like one cheeky bastard. I absolutely love him. The third thing I realized, maybe my least favorite thing of it all, is that Kubrick really loved himself while filming this movie. This movie is very long, and I can justify it. I personally feel thoroughly entertained throughout the whole thing, but if we're being completely honest, there are some scenes that could have really finished at the 2-minute mark. There's no need to have a 5-minute scene about you doing something in space just because you feel like it. Yes, this movie is a masterpiece. Yes, some of the spacing still looks so modern, and I cannot even believe that they're 50 years old. But oh my god, does Kubrick take his sweet ass time in some of these scenes. Scenes like Dave or Frank leaving the spaceship to get on a pot and fix something, or that trippy vortex moment in which Dave goes when he goes to Jupiter, they're great, but they feel long, and you really feel it after a few minutes. Now, the fourth and final thing I realized after watching it for a second time is that the third act is not as strong as it could have been. I have watched the movie, and then I read the book to understand the ending of the movie, and now that I've watched it again, I can confirm that the third act is just very disappointing, especially if you get a much clearer sense of what it means because you've read the book. I understand that Kubrick and Clark wanted there to be more questions than answers by the time you finish this movie. Otherwise, there wouldn't be an interesting discussion. Otherwise, it wouldn't be as open to interpretation. So much so that people to this day are still writing articles about the meaning of the ending of Space Odyssey. And I think that's fantastic. I think it's great that you can have a movie 50 years later that you're still discussing and still finding new meanings to it. But I really do think Kubrick could have done it better, especially when Clark did so well in the book, and it's so much clearer and understandable what is happening. I very much appreciate Kubrick's vision of the ending, and I love the fact that he has a camera work of showing a young Dave looking at an older Dave who's looking at a bedridden Dave. It's very weird and abstract, and you can get a lot of meaning from it, but in the end it doesn't explain the journey that Dave is having when he arrives to this very weird yet human place. It doesn't tell you what he's thinking. They don't show you the things he discovered, which he discovers a lot of things and what the monolith might actually mean, but you don't get that from these scenes. And I'm not saying we need dialogue, but maybe we could have used a little something more specific and a little more of Dave just roaming around and exploring things the way he does in the book. And sure, it's fun, it's trippy, and it's super weird, but I do wish Kubrick would have done a little bit more in explaining that, because then we can understand more about the monolith and maybe understand Bowman's final purpose. Overall, guys, my opinion is that it's wonderful to watch this movie on the big screen. It's sensational in 70mm, although I do think the sound wasn't that particularly amazing. I feel like that could have been better. If you have seen 2001: A Space Odyssey, watch it again. If you haven't, please watch it. It's weird. It might make you angry. I don't care if you hate it. I don't care if you love it. It's just an experience that, honestly, if you're a cinema fan, you should have. Well, guys, that was my semi-vlog, semi-review of Space Odyssey. Have you seen the movie? Let me know what you think of it, and let me know what you think of the ending. Oh my god, I would love to know what you think of the ending. And you can also find me on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram if you look for CineClub Channel. But until next time, guys, I hope you have a great week. I hope you enjoy these types of vlogs, and I will see you on our next movie date. Bye!